Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Sorry I haven't been here for the last couple of days. I was in London until last night. So the social insect, that picture there is a green, what's it called again? A green ant. It's the most social of social insects. So before I start, this is really a concept that got formed by us 4 years ago. We sat in our group together. Antonio was there, Alyosha was there, David was there, several people. And we wanted to do something that would bring us back together with all our skill sets. I remember then sitting in the Royal Rice last year over several drinks, and we had a similar conversation. So I decided to put this onto paper and to start talking about it to see how we could actually formulate it. So some of you will know what I'm talking about and others will not. So the challenge really is there's several communities, and by communities I mean islands, farms, villages, who want to go a renewable and sustainable route, very similar to the exercise we did for the 100% renewable energy island, but they don't know where to start. And on the other side, we have all our wonderful students and alumni, such as ourselves, who are either working renewables to a certain extent or would like to be working in renewables but don't know how to do it. So that's the challenge. So how do we bring those two things together? So enter the social insects. So the social insects, by the way, are ants or bees. And the reason I've called it this is because it's about intergenerational interplay. It's about dividing skills, multiple skills, and pulling it together for the benefit of the community. So the concept, and it is still in conceptual stage, but I have registered the domain name at least, is really a smart network. So it's a think tank and a do tank that will be part non-profit and part for-profit eventually. So the idea behind it really is to create smart communities with a renewable core, and then use our collective capabilities to work on projects that benefit multi-generational communities. My observation of the analysis we did of some of those 100% renewable energy islands, like the one in Denmark that I think some of us looked at, was it's brilliant. And then the old generation leaves and the young generation wants to live outside their world of their tiny island. So the idea falls apart. So the key to making a sustainable community is to have that intergenerational interplay. And then the idea really is moving towards a circular economy-based future. So target smart community is not smart cities, it's not big, fat, hairy industrial corporations. It's really farms or villages or even islands. So the concept essentially is, in order for such a sustainable community to exist, there's three key areas. One is the energy mix, which is why we're all sitting in this room today. One is technology, and around that is digital education. How do you bring that into play so that you can continually grow and be relevant for your existing community? And the other is people. How do you bring people along in this journey? And then sitting in the middle of that really is a renewable core, a sustainable trade model, and then finally this intergenerational interlock. So if I take a really simple example, if we're in a small village in the middle of nowhere where farming is the main ingredient, let's say dairy farming or sheep farming, the output of sheep farming, of course, lambs, but also wool, right? So how can you create an industry between different generations? And an example there would be the older generation is brilliant at knitting, but the younger generation might be good designers. So how do you bring that together and take that to market? So our future services, because this is a call to action, because we said we were going to do it, is really looking at all the skills that we possess in this room and with our wider alumni network around the business case. So how do we create a business case for this? And also, how do we do microfinancing preparation and brokering? We have skills in this. Jean-Luc, for example, does this to a certain extent. David worked in financing before. We have these skills, right? Energy mix and management recommendations. So we just heard about the whole hybrid model. How do we do that? Transportation mix, so electric vehicles. Technology roadmap. So how does IoT play into all of this? Again, Alexander was talking about this earlier. And then the sustainable business roadmap. And I want to pause on that really because I think that's really the key to this, is how do you keep your community sustainable and generation after generation? And for that, you need a community change initiative and plan and brokering to get a different way of thinking. And then finally, project management and quality assurance. So the idea really is that we will create a set of services, we will land on a sample project. I'm hoping, Antonio, you can come up with some ideas from Mozambique, that we can trial this and prove that it works, that it doesn't take 100% of our time, but we can generate something that's of benefit to a community, and then we can take this to market. We've got two examples that we could potentially use. One is a farm. It's a dairy farm in Exmoor. Does anyone know where Exmoor is? I think the pictures aren't coming up. So Exmoor is southwest England. It's a national park. It's the middle of, it's pretty remote for England. It's pretty remote. It's about 10,000 acres. It's a large farm, 800,000 sheep, some cows and 6 houses. It's a current farm that would like to turn into a sustainable business model that's not just about farming. The other is we could target an island. So I'm working with a friend of mine who works for GLISPA, which is the Global Island Partnership. It's a UN organisation, and they focus on promoting resilient islands and communities on islands. They focus predominantly on communication plans, and they work with island head of states. So Cyprus, Malta, Palau would be typical examples. And their challenge that they see is they get a communication plan together with an intent and purpose, but then the realization of that communication plan is very, very difficult. And that's because they're targeted by lots of different businesses who are trying to sell, and they don't know what the best solution is. So they don't have a recommendation that's completely agnostic. And therefore, it stagnates, and they don't make as much progress as they would like. So another option is a potential island. So the last thing I really wanted to say in all of this is the sort of skills we need is in this room. I'm willing to take this forward, but we all need to contribute. This is really a call to action because we've talked about it for several years over beer and wine. And so I thought we'd do it in sobriety and basically who's in, and if anyone can play a role, and if we have an idea of a particular community we could target, that would be awesome. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Very interesting presentation. What I would like to know is how do you think that this concept can be used in developing countries? How can it be used?
Yes. So the answer for me is yes. It can be used in developing countries. At this stage, there's no fund. This is a concept right now. So there's no funding behind this. This is really so I don't think you were there when we had the first conversation, but the first conversation was, wouldn't it be awesome if once a year we could all get together for a couple of weeks and pragmatically demonstrate the things that we've learned on this course and pool our resources to do mini projects. And through somehow financing for travel, but we donate our time, was basically the concept we came up with. So this is really taking it to the next stage. Absolutely. If there's anywhere that we can target, that's brilliant. The idea is we're using our virtual network so we can do as much remotely to be as financially cost aware, such that we can actually contribute. It's not about necessarily implementation, but it's about the design and a pragmatic business case that we could then use and help get funding for developing countries. Do you have an idea? Okay.
Thank you. I believe the concept is something which is very useful. I'll just take the two last points, the business case modeling and the community change management. Well, 4 weeks ago, I was here
Okay.
in Germany, and I went around just to have some discussion with people who are engaged on energy cooperatives. Because we wanted to develop that approach and back home. Because the concept of cooperatives in the past was a big failure.
Okay.
Because that was based on the socialism, the way that everyone must have the same.
Yes.
And that is not business.
Correct.
So we really to change the approach, which means that the business case modeling, you need to think how to do business first. So what we are trying to see is look into those communities and see how really to establish a new model of being together.
Okay.
But each one should get what they is delivering. This is the approach. So we think that would be also related to the community change management. So all
Yes.
these things that I believe that in terms of our concept, it's very useful. I just want to comment on that.
I think that's spot on, and I think this is not about creating hippie communes at all. This is about creating business models where you can get return on investment and make money for that community in independent ways, but using the power of the community to do that, basically. But very, very good point. Yeah.
Just a comment on the idea. Yesterday we had like a round table to discuss how we want to prepare alumni conference in the future.
Yes.
And we all came up with this requirement.
Well, there we
We
go.
said we want something, we want to take a practical challenge, try to put our minds together, come up with a solution, and see where it goes after that. I think, we were just thinking about it. You've got a framework there, so it's brilliant.
Awesome. Well, that's really great. So what we need, thank you for that. What we need is an actual example of something where we, so I have a farm. A friend of mine owns a farm in the UK. But if we can do something for somebody in this room, that would be even better, right? Because then we could really harness the power. So if you have ideas, send me an email and let's get this started. Thank you.